Third down, inches to go. To Bader. 17 to 14. Cowboys out in front. Starr begins the count. Takes the snap. He's got the quarterback sneaking. He's in for the touchdown, and the Packers are out in front. And the Green Bay Packers are going to be world champions.
Set up for the Packers, and Favre back to throw his first one. Going deep. Has a man open. Andre Rison does the dance in, and Favre got settled down in a hurry.
That is the way to settle down.
Got hit there, 3rd and 1. Jordy Nelson, touchdown, Green Bay.
The title is back in town. The Green Bay Packers are world champions of football.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome to another rendition of the Titletown Lounge podcast. I am your host, Rhino. You can find me on Twitter at Sports Talk Rhino. This handsome devil to my right is Brandon. You can find him on Twitter at Twisco_Brandon. Of course, the podcast itself you can find on Twitter at Titletown Lounge. Welcome to our new home. We will now be recording on Wednesday nights at 7:30-ish, give or take a couple of minutes. That way we can break down the week before's matchup and, of course, the week ahead and give you all of the best up-to-date analysis of your Green Bay Packers. Welcome to the Week 1 preview show. Brandon, football is finally here, man. It's finally upon us. We are days away from that Week 1 matchup against the New Orleans Saints in Jacksonville. We're about 24 hours away from the season opener matchup with the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How we doing, bud? How we feeling?
Really good, Rhino. I like that we're back. I wouldn't say back. It's our first time at this time slot, but it's good to be in the middle of the week talking about upcoming football matchups and upcoming games. You walk outside. I take my kids to school in the morning, and it's cool in the morning. It has that fall feeling. It's my favorite time of the year. I don't have to sweat as much as I normally do out in the summer, so I'm excited for that. Look, we're entering, in my opinion, the best month, I should say the best few months of sports. Look, we got NFL kickoff. College football was crazy last weekend. Rest in peace to my Badgers' chances of doing anything this year. We got college football, we got the NFL, and then we got baseball, playoff races, and then NBA basketball isn't too far behind. So I love this time of year. Yeah, super excited. And it's even better when you have a really good football team when you're talking about the Green Bay Packers and high expectations and high hopes. So it's a good time. It's a good time to be a sports fan. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, I fight the urge every year to resist fall because I do love summer. I do love cookouts. I do love, the daylight until 9 o'clock. I love the t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops weather. But once you wake up and that first 55-degree crisp morning hits your face when you walk out the door, there really is nothing better than that. And I've been sleeping with the windows open. Well, past couple of days the air has been on, but I had a couple nights in there with the windows open. It gets down to about 54, and that breeze just hits your naked ass, or whatever you wear to whatever you wear to bed. I don't know what you guys wear, but football is upon us, and Week 1 is probably the most exciting for at least the first few months of the NFL season, just because it's that rush of excitement. It's that adrenaline feeling with your team. That opening kickoff is there's no other better feeling to me until you reach the playoffs almost with that opening kickoff of Week 1. We do have a very interesting matchup, Week 1 against the New Orleans Saints in Jacksonville. The Hurricane did chase the Saints out of New Orleans, unfortunately, so that game will not be played in the Superdome. It is being played where the Jacksonville Jaguars call home. And I was a little nervous about this matchup at first because the forecast was not in our favor. It was a high of 98, I believe, a week ago, but that temperature has come down a little bit. It actually shows rain in the forecast, which I don't mind because the Packers can be a ground and pound team if they have to be. But 87 degrees is a lot better than 98 degrees. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think the fact that they're playing in Jacksonville hurts them. I don't think the weather is going to hurt them. I think it's going to favor the Packers just as much as it favors the Saints. So the weather's not going to be an issue. I think it actually favors the Packers a little bit more if it's raining. The Saints are not a outdoor team. They're a dome team. They're not used to playing in the crap, the mud, the slush. So I feel like the weather may favor the Packers in this matchup, even with the warmer temperatures. But we're going to discuss first the matchups that you're intrigued to see. Now, I've been seeing quite a bit on Twitter over the last week or so, like, oh, this isn't your normal Saints team with the departure of Drew Brees, obviously. This isn't your normal Saints team. Now, that, of course, is true, but a lot of people are missing the fact that that's not necessarily a bad thing. Last time we saw Jameis Winston in action, he did throw 30 interceptions, but he also had 5,000 yards passing and 30 touchdowns. He is a very capable quarterback. And, I put quite a bit of the blame on Winston, but there is a little bit of blame to go around to the rest of the team when he played last in Tampa Bay. They didn't have the greatest run game. They didn't have the greatest offensive line. He was put in a lot of positions where it was known he was going to throw the ball, your 3rd and long, your 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, etc. So a lot of those interceptions came with defenses that knew he was going to throw the ball. There's nothing better than a quarterback who can be comfortable in the pocket and can throw when the team isn't expecting it to throw. He's in a new scenario in New Orleans. He sat behind Drew Brees for a year. He did have the LASIK surgery. I don't know how much that's going to make a difference, but his eyesight is better. What are your thoughts on Jameis Winston going into this Week 1 matchup? Can we expect the last time we saw him, Jameis Winston, where he's out there gunslinging it and throwing it all over the field? Or is it going to be more like his rookie season, Jameis Winston? What do you expect to see out of him?
There's a lot of like jokes that get thrown at Jameis, and some of them, Rhino, are I get it. My buddy Jake drops in and says 30 interceptions. I get it. He's, in my opinion, he's still a good quarterback. Like, there's not many Heisman Trophy winners walking around.
Or national champions.
He's the high school player of the year. He was the overall number 1 pick. And look, it didn't work out in Tampa. And it's funny because then Brady comes in and he wins the Super Bowl the following year. So I don't know. He's kind of a wild card to me, Rhino. But I'll tell you what, he's not going to have a whole lot of help. Alvin Kamara is really the only piece. And for fantasy purposes, I hope he has a great game. That in that offense, look, Michael Thomas, the drama with Michael Thomas is still with the foot, and I don't know. You talk to people down in New Orleans and that cover the team, and he's an absolute head case right now, Michael Thomas. So Jameis Winston, and look, there's no Jared Cook, there's no Emmanuel Sanders. He's got a decent offensive line, but they're not in their element, which is at home. The Saints are really good in the Superdome. I know Green Bay went in there last year and won, but they should have won last year. And really, they should win this year. You're talking about a better football team, Rhino, in every aspect of the game. When you talk about offense, the Green Bay Packers should have the edge. You're at a neutral site. In my opinion, you're probably going to see it like we saw when the Packers went down there in 2016 to Jacksonville. You're probably going to see more of a home, game feeling for the Green Bay Packers. As we all know, maybe outside of the Steelers, the Packers travel really, really well. And there's a very solid fan base down there that resides in Florida. So it's going to be, that Jameis Winston loses that ability, to have a quiet stadium, a quiet Superdome to orchestrate the offense. If Sean Payton, this is going to be Sean Payton's biggest test. Which is funny because Aaron Rodgers gets blasted about only having one Super Bowl, and Mike McCarthy, but Sean Payton and Drew Brees are in the same boat. I mean, they only had one as well. Sean Payton had Drew Brees for the 2006 all the way up until he retired. So what can Sean Payton do as a play caller, as the play designer, offensive coordinator, whatever the heck he is? What is he going to bring to help Jameis Winston? Now, obviously, not having a whole lot of weapons on the outside. What are you going to expect about Jameis? I think he's going to be more of a game manager, if that makes a little bit sense. And they're going to run through Alvin Kamara. As Kamara goes, that offense is going to go. If he's not running the ball, they're going to have issues moving the football. And I think that's a big reason when Green Bay, when you're looking at the New Orleans Saints, load the box, put 8-9 guys up there, shut down Kamara. We saw what he did to us last year.
Yeah.
So
he actually had a better game through the air than he did on the ground.
Exactly. So it's going to be, that's what you're going to see a lot of Jameis Winston, in my opinion, lean on Alvin Kamara because there's just nobody else on that offensive side of the ball. We'll see what happens with Sean Payton, with the scheme that he's got going, the game plan and the plays that they're going to be calling. But I think you're going to see a lot of safe throws out of Jameis Winston. You're going to see a lot of checkdowns. You're going to see a lot of screen passes. And for the Packers, can they generate a little bit of pass rush? Because the tackles for New Orleans last year, Ramczyk, and I forgot the other guy's name, they held Green Bay. They were in check pretty much all game. So that's going to be the key is getting to Jameis. If you can pressure him, he's obviously prone to making mistakes, as a listener dropped in and said 30 interceptions. So, but it's unknown. We don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Sean. We'll see how good Sean Payton is.
The one thing, and I want to touch on this real quick, in terms of getting pressure to the quarterback, the one difference between Drew Brees and Jameis Winston is Drew Brees can sense real pressure, and he can stand in the pocket when he thinks that his offensive line is going to keep him safe. You could still scare Jameis Winston out of the pocket. You know, if you're bringing a strong blitz, if you're bringing a strong pass rush, and Jameis gets scared back there, he thinks that he's going to have guys in his face, he may be more prone to roll out. Drew Brees is a smarter quarterback. He's also a much better pocket passing quarterback. So I don't necessarily think we have to get guys in the backfield nonstop, but if you make Jameis Winston nervous, if you make him think that the pass rush is going to be there, that mistake is going to happen. Drew Brees, maybe not necessarily, but Jameis, absolutely, that mistake is going to be there. I feel the one thing with Jameis that we're not giving him credit for is, first of all, his eagerness to play, his eagerness to learn. He's a very competitive guy. You know, he's not a top 10 quarterback. He's probably not even a top 20 quarterback at this point right now, but there are a few guys in the NFL that are more competitive than Jameis is. And I think that competitive nature, sitting behind Drew Brees for a year, learning, eating that knowledge, like he said, a couple years ago, eating that W, so cringeworthy in that post-game or pre-game.
That was horrible.
Oh my God, it was so cringeworthy. But
yeah.
I give him credit as one of the most competitive guys in the league. So I'm not going to say nervous, but I do anticipate seeing a much better Jameis under center New Orleans than we did in Tampa. Now, he doesn't have nearly the weapons that he had in Tampa as last year. I mean, he had Mike Evans, he had Chris Godwin.
Yep.
He had a couple of tight ends that were pretty good. But, Traquan Smith, I think he's developed some really good chemistry with Traquan Smith. I'm pretty sure he was a wide receiver that had that 56 or 60-yard touchdown pass against Tampa in the playoffs when Jameis came in to replace Drew Brees for a couple of plays. So it'll be interesting to see that particular dynamic. But I think as long as you are making him nervous in the pocket, not necessarily pressuring him in the pocket, but making him nervous, he's going to make one or two mistakes. I see at least an interception out of Jair Alexander in that game, maybe a forced fumble, hopefully somewhere. But I do think that Jameis brings a dynamic to the game that Drew Brees hasn't brought in probably 5 or 6 years. So that is a matchup to at least keep an eye on. Now, the matchup I'm probably most concerned with going into this game, Alvin Kamara versus our middle linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
What are our middle linebackers going to do with Joe Barry? What kind of adjustments are they going to make to a strong run game? First game is probably one of the hardest tests they're going to have all season. Alvin Kamara is a top 5 back in the NFL. They're going to face few backs other than maybe Dalvin Cook all year that are going to have the playmaking capabilities of Alvin Kamara. What do you expect out of Joe Barry and this middle linebacker core in Green Bay and going into week 1?
It's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a test right away. We're going to find out real quick. And that's the thing about the Green Bay Packers, and I'm not against it, but not seeing much of anybody in the preseason, vanilla play calling on both sides of the football. We're not 100% sure with a new defensive coordinator what to expect. We're going to find out real quick. I think within the first 1, maybe 2 series of the Green Bay being on defense, we're going to find out what their game plan is, what their scheme is. If I'm Joe Barry, if I'm Matt LaFleur, I'm making Alvin Kamara beat me. Now, he almost did last year. He came very, very close. And the fantasy football side of me, I wouldn't be too upset about it. But we're going to find out real quick, what he's going to be doing in order to stop Alvin Kamara. He's, like you said, he's in my opinion, he's one of them. I think he's the best back in football. I know that argument can go back and forth between, Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook and maybe Aaron Jones and a couple others, Derrick Henry. But Alvin Kamara can beat you in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So we're going to see the linebackers. I'm excited to see Devondre Campbell. I really am. And if you look at the training camp and you follow the beat writers, I'm not there, at practice. They've had high praise for that guy. Very high praise. Now everybody says, well, if he's so good, why did Arizona cut him? Well, they drafted an inside linebacker in the first round this year. So that's the reason he found himself cut, and Green Bay picked him up right away.
Can I ask you quickly, to go along with this, are you surprised that he got the starting nod over Oren Burks with how well of a preseason Burks had?
No. And not because Campbell's a proven inside linebacker in the NFL. He was really good in Arizona. And we saw Oren Burks just struggle. This is the first time we've seen Oren Burks really flash anything outside of his Purdue days in Green Bay. And is that Joe Barry? It could be, because he sent a handful of Pro Bowlers when he was the linebackers coach in LA, coaching the Rams to the Pro Bowl. So we know his strong suit is inside linebackers. And it just so happens that Green Bay's weakness every single year is inside linebackers. They're doing a little bit of experimenting with Kamal Martin, maybe pushing him to the outside. We'll talk about where Zadarius Smith is. I don't know what that means as much as his health goes, but they're going to be tested real quick right away, because look, like I said, opening the show, the only person in New Orleans that's going to beat you is Kamara. He's the only weapon they have on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
that is good enough to beat a team by himself. So we're going to find out real quick.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what these inside linebackers do, especially with Joe Barry. You touched on it. He's turned some, I don't want to call them nobodies, but he's turned some second and third tier guys into great linebackers. I've been wanting this for years. Strong middle linebacker play could push this defense into the top 3 in the NFL. We already know what the secondary is capable of. You've got the best cornerback in football. You've got one of the best safety tandems in football. Middle linebacker play could push this defense into the top 3 and make them a Super Bowl contention worthy defense. We haven't had that since, obviously 2010 when they won the Super Bowl. In terms of the interior defensive line, I don't know if that's going to be a problem. Kenny Clark is obviously one of the best in the world at his job. I guess my question is, are they going to challenge the interior D-line knowing that the middle linebacker core is weak? Or do you see them maybe playing on the outside of the ball knowing that Zadarius Smith is hurt? Preston Smith has not played well over the last couple of years. Where do you see them attacking that Green Bay defense with Alvin Kamara?
It's got to be outside, Rhino. To me it does, because that's where Alvin Kamara is the best. Now, he's not Derrick Henry. His physical stature will tell you that. He's not so much, an A gap or B gap player. He can do it. Trust me, he's broken off runs, inside handoffs, but he's an outside the tackles kind of running back. He gets in space, and that's where he is a problem. And I think that's where, if I'm Sean Payton, I don't even know who their offensive coordinator is over there, but whoever it is running the offense over there, I know it's mostly Sean Payton. I'm getting Kamara in space. Because there's two things about that. When you get a back in space, it slows down the pass rush, quick plays, whether it be a draw, a screen, whatever, it slows down that pass rush. And if you're going to get to Jameis, you're going to try to create and win the turnover battle, getting pressure is vital. It's going to be important. Like you said, when you get pressure on him, he's prone to making mistakes. So in my opinion, if I'm Joe Barry, if I'm looking at the New Orleans Saints, I think they're going to put Kamara in space, because that's where he just excels the most. He's not a bruising back and up the middle. And then look, that's the weakness that we don't know. We don't know what these inside linebackers are going to be. We haven't seen a whole lot of looks at them. Where's Darnell Savage going to play? Is he going to be playing closer to the line of scrimmage like we saw him doing at times last year, especially against the New Orleans Saints? Are they going to play man? Are they going to play zone? What are they going to do? Are they afraid to, are they going to blitz more? Because there is no Michael Thomas. There is no Jared Cook. There is no Emmanuel Sanders. Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway, that's like their number one receivers, are they? I mean, I'm not taking anything away from them, but I mean, they're not world beaters. They're not Michael Thomas. They're not Devontae Adams. They're not Keenan Allen. They're not going to burn you if you leave a cornerback, on an island. Kevin Kane, hopefully not. But so yeah, I think you're going to see Kamara in space. I think you're going to see quick, whether it be quick, shovel passes, screen passes. They're going to be getting the ball out. In my opinion, they're going to be getting the ball out of Winston's hands, so he's not thinking so much, and he's more of just reacting to what is being called. And that's worrisome because we see there's two things about that, right? The Packers suck at tackling every single year. Maybe that changes. I doubt it. And that hasn't been changed in years. And your outside containment isn't that good. We saw Zadarius Smith. Yeah, if he's playing, he put a picture on Twitter like with him working out saying week 1. So you assume that he's probably playing, but we saw it last year at moments. His containment isn't always great. Preston Smith's containment isn't always great. I think Rashawn Gary, you're going to probably see a lot of him week 1, especially if Zadarius Smith. And we haven't seen a whole lot of him. So we really don't know. And especially with a new defense, there's just a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that about Zadarius Smith. The one thing he spoke about in the NFL Top 100 when they got to the Aaron Jones pick, he actually made that comment. He'd be in practice and they would call him to contain the outside, and Aaron Jones is in the backfield, and he's looking at the coaches like, really? You want me to contain Aaron Jones? Well, I hate to say this, but Alvin Kamara is a better back than Aaron Jones is. It's close, but I would definitely give the nod to Alvin Kamara. Now, speaking of Zadarius Smith, he has been battling that back injury pretty much all preseason, very, very limited in practice. He had 0 reps during the preseason games. He is at practice this week. To what extent is not entirely known, but what do you expect out of Zadarius Smith? Do you think he plays on a snap count? Do you think he is 100% ready to go? He is listed as questionable in the injury report. What are you expecting to see out of Zadarius Smith?
I'm worried about him. Because it's the type of injury. And Zadarius Smith, since he's arrived in Green Bay, has not missed practices. He just hasn't. He's been the leader by example and by words every single day he's been in Green Bay so far. The contract worries me. I don't think he's injured because of the contract. We heard Goody shot those rumors down.
That's kind of his job, though.
Well, and I believe Zadarius also said something along the lines of it's not contract related. And I don't think
he would do that.
Yeah, I don't think he would. Yeah, he just doesn't come off as a type of player. But I'm worried because of the injury, Rhino. When you talk about a back, you talk about a guy as great as Zadarius is. He's going up against guys that are much larger than him. And having a back injury, lingering around all training camp going into the season is worrisome. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know what you're going to see out of him. I don't know, I don't know. And I wouldn't be opposed to sitting him either, because I think Rashawn Gary is ready to take that next step this year. And I think you're going to see some production out of Rashawn Gary. I'm worried about Preston Smith. We need production out of the outside linebackers. I mean, if you're going to run a 3-4, if your outside linebackers are no good, your defense isn't going to be no good. Same goes for your inside linebackers. So it's worrisome. I do think he's probably doing everything that he can possibly do to get back in action, but we know Green Bay is extremely conservative when it comes to injuries. I would not be surprised the least bit to see him sit. Let's call it what it is, Rhino. This game should not, if you're looking at it on paper, I know it's the first week in the regular season. Green Bay hasn't played all preseason. New Orleans has. When you look at these two teams, it really shouldn't be close. Is it worth putting out Zadarius Smith week 1 with an injury when he hasn't played all preseason? He hasn't even practiced, really, outside of a limited basis. Is it worth pushing him into the starting lineup, the starting outside linebacker, in a game where you probably should win, even if he plays or doesn't play? That's the question that Brian Gutekunst is going to be asking. That's the question Matt LaFleur is going to be asked, and I guess we'll see. But and you'll also see, too, and I know I'm rambling on real quick, but we'll see what they think about Rashawn Gary. Yeah. Because if they sit Zadarius Smith, then that to me means that they're comfortable with Rashawn Gary stepping into that outside linebacker role.
I think in terms of Zadarius Smith, it wouldn't hurt depending on what his status is, depending on the severity of the injury, it wouldn't hurt to get him at least some reps. He didn't play at all in preseason. Now, I understand, a lot of people make the argument, well, they're veterans, they've been there before, they know exactly what to expect, and that's fine. I only put that up to maybe one or two positions. The quarterback position probably doesn't need any reps in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe your running back probably doesn't need any reps in the preseason, but guys still need reps to at least get to game speed shape. You can't tell me Za'Darius is in game speed shape right now. If his back is cleared and if it's where he thinks it needs to be, I don't think a snap count would be bad, even if it's 10 or 15 snaps in the first quarter. And if the game is starting to go your way early on, then get him out. But I don't think a snap count would be bad for Za'Darius. I mean, get him in there, first quarter action, see if he's putting good pressure on the quarterback, see how that back is feeling after a couple of series. If he says, yes, I'm good to go, let him go. But I think you're 100% right in terms of Rashawn Gary. If they sit Za'Darius Smith and Rashawn Gary gets, 3/4 of the defensive snaps in that game, we obviously know what direction the team is going to head in terms of the edge position in 2022. You almost wonder if they're looking at Rashawn Gary to see, hey, do we need to extend Za'Darius Smith? Do we need to restructure him? Or, what are we going to do with him? Are we going to sit on his contract for a year and then maybe let him walk, let him get traded, etc.? But if Rashawn Gary has a monster year, it's hard to believe that they would probably extend Za'Darius in the offseason. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, probably just there's so many. You look at beyond 2021 with Za'Darius, you look at beyond 2021 with now Davante Adams coming out and saying there's no chance he signs an extension before the season starts, which is not totally surprising. We've seen Green Bay, Kenny Clark and David Bakhtiari most recently, I think actually in the same year, signed extensions.
Those were within like a week or two, I believe.
Yeah, it was real close.
Other,
so we've seen that happen before where they'll do it in the season. I don't necessarily like how Davante Adams came off today, and that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But they have a lot of issues going forward. $42 million, Rhino, over the cap looking at next year. $42 million. Now there's question marks everywhere. Aaron Rodgers, Za'Darius Smith, Davante Adams, Jair Alexander's going to be due. In my opinion, and I said it on the show before, and I'll say it again, Elton Jenkins is a future Hall of Famer in this league, and he's going to be due a ton of money. The guy's played every position on the offensive line. So I would imagine if you see Za'Darius Smith have a injury-riddled 2021 campaign, what they're going to do with him is probably, in my opinion, if Rashawn Gary's ready, it's either going to be Za'Darius or Preston that's probably gone next year, and Rashawn Gary's going to fill the hole in wherever it may be, and maybe they look at addressing pass rushers and free agency again, or maybe in the draft. But Za'Darius Smith's going to want a lot of money. He's going to want a lot of money.
Yeah.
He deserves a lot of money. He's been one of the best outside pass rushers in football, better than Khalil Mack. That's just the numbers. I mean, I'm just going off of strictly numbers. If nobody comes at, I'm not shading the Bears or Khalil Mack, but as far as numbers, Za'Darius Smith has had a better last 2 years than Khalil Mack.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but the Saints offensive line is really good too. I mean, that's the thing, with rushing Za'Darius Smith right out there after not doing anything really all summer long. And then you're going up against, a probably top 5, top 10 offensive line in the NFL as a whole. It's putting a lot of pressure on a guy that's facing an injury.
Teron Armstead is the other lineman you're thinking of for the New Orleans Saints. Teron Armstead is
and Cesar Ruiz. They're good. Yep. They're good at kind of all over. I mean, that's what makes
Eric McCoy.
Yeah, that's
Eric
what makes
pretty good at center. Yeah,
that's what makes this team. It's so unknown because, you should beat them. You're better than them, but they have a good offensive line. Kamara is one of the best backs in football, and you just never. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That is the defensive side of the ball. Moving on to my favorite part, of course, the offensive side. The offensive, you beat me to the punch. The offensive line. Offensive line. Well, you could have had an apostrophe in there, like the offensive line's concerns. are we to be worried about the offensive line Green Bay is going to be putting out there? Now, obviously, you do have Jenkins filling in at that left tackle position with David Bakhtiari out and on the PUP list. You do have Lucas Patrick at the left guard. Josh Myers, I don't know if I'm concerned about his pass blocking abilities. I am concerned about where he is with the cadence. I'm also concerned about where he is with the delivery of the football when Rodgers needs it. And then, of course, you've got Royce Newman at the right guard and Billy Turner at right tackle. Which side of the offensive line do you think is the weakness is the first question.
The right.
Yeah.
Which is fine with me if I got to pick a side. Royce Newman looked good all preseason, really. It was the highest rated lineman as far as the preseason goes, according to PFF. Billy Turner, you kind of know what you're getting with Billy Turner. He's not an all-pro out there. He's going to have his moments. He likes to hold a little bit too much. But Elgton Jenkins, man, to me is just so darn good and so underappreciated. God, yes, He's underappreciated in Packer fans because we're like, oh, we need a center. Okay, throw Elgton Jenkins over there. Oh, now we need a left tackle. Okay, throw Elgton Jenkins over there. My hope was that Bakhtiari was going to be ready to go.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they would IR him and had him return within those 3 weeks with a designation to return. Packers are conservative. If they're not 150% ready, they're just not going to push you out there. That goes back to the conversation we were just having about Zadarius Smith. But if I'm looking at the offensive line, I saw Josh Myers in person, really close when I went to the preseason game. The dude made David Bakhtiari look small.
Yeah.
Small. Yeah. He is a absolute unit. I think any issues with Josh Myers, it's just the mental part of the game right now.
Yeah,
and I get it. It's a mental game. And Aaron Rodgers jumped down his throat a couple weeks ago at practice. I think he's going to be fine. I really do. He's a smart guy. I think he's going to be fine. I think you're going to see him, probably have his moments, but he's not going to, cause any issues. So Royce Newman's just a concern for me. And I understand that Josh Myers is also a rookie, but looking at the two first round or second round draft pick, fourth round draft pick, is there a little difference? I don't know. Josh Myers played at Ohio State. Royce Newman, obviously, at Mississippi State. I don't know. But if I had to pick, I guess the right side, just because I love Elgton Jenkins so much.
I don't mind the PUP list for Bakhtiari. If you think about it, they really only have one difficult matchup in terms of the defensive lines they'll be playing over the first 6 weeks. I mean, they have some pretty cupcake games in terms of pass rushing capabilities. I mean, they start off week 1 against New Orleans, and then they have the Detroit Lions. They have the one matchup I'd probably be most concerned with is San Francisco with Bosa out there. And they do have a pretty strong interior defensive line. But after that, I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't really scaring anybody with their pass rush, the Bengals, and then, of course, the Bears, which I think Elgton Jenkins versus he who may not be named on the show out there in Chicago, maybe a questionable matchup, but I don't mind it because you bring him back and you're 100% guaranteed that he's going to be healthy. And he's going to finish out that season. God forbid another injury happen. Hopefully it doesn't, but he won't have anything lingering with that knee. With that IR designated to return after 3 weeks, you may still have something lingering. You don't know. You're not 100%. I don't mind being conservative with injuries, especially when it comes to your all-pro players, the guys that you're paying the top dollar to. Keep that long-term money invested in them intelligently, I guess, is the best way I could put it. So I don't mind it. I don't think it's a bad thing. I love the left side of the offensive line in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of play action. I think there's going to be a lot of running to the left side, a lot of sweeps, tosses to the left side. I think they're going to attack that left side of the offensive line all game. If that pass rush seems a little difficult on the right side, maybe you throw an A.J. Dillon in the backfield for pass protection. Maybe you put Big Dog on the right side of the line for pass protection. I don't know. I mean, New Orleans doesn't scare me. New Orleans doesn't have that guy that's going to be like, oh man, he's going to eat us up all game. Cameron Jordan, maybe 4 years ago, but Cameron Jordan's not the same Cameron Jordan.
Marcus Davenport.
What are we just drawing names out of a hat at this point?
Well, that's their starting ends, Davenport and Cameron Jordan, and they're good. They're not.
They're good, but are they Khalil Mack? Are they Joey Bosa?
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
No. I mean, yeah, I'm not taking anything away from them. They're a decent pass rush tandem, but I can't see that being a problem in this game. That's not the problem that I'm concerned with. The problem that I'm concerned with is what's Matt LaFleur going to do with all these weapons? You know, like I can't imagine that this first maybe even 3 games is what we're going to see long term for the Packers offense. I think there's going to be a lot of like, is this going to work? Is this going to work? Let's try this. Let's run out this offense. Let's run out this formation. I don't think he really knows what he has with his offense yet because nobody played in the preseason. Mm-hmm. We're going to see a lot of things that may not work in the first couple quarters. You may see a slow start with this Packers offense because you have potentially a top 5 running back duo. You have potentially a top 5 or top 10 tight end tandem. Obviously, we know they have a top 5 wide receiver core, but what formations are they going to be running the majority of the season? What play calling are we going to see the majority of the season? I don't know if the play calling we see week 1 is anything like the play calling we're going to see week 9, week 10. That's the only downfall to maybe not playing your starters in the preseason, especially when you have some additions to your offense. You shake a couple things up. Obviously, we saw the addition of Randall Cobb, Amari Rodgers, A.J. Dillon being bumped up to running back 2. What offense are we going to see in the first quarter, even compared to the fourth quarter? So that honestly is my biggest concern going into this game because, you know, if we run a certain offense for the first quarter and maybe New Orleans gets out to a 7-0 lead, a 10-0 lead, well, then what do? You know, how do you go back to all reliable if you don't know if all reliable even works? You know, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the Saints defense is underrated as well. I mean, Malcolm Jenkins, Marshawn Lattimore, Demario Davis, who's arguably the best inside backer. You got Quan Alexander that they acquired. I think their defense is underrated, but I also think we haven't seen this offense either for the Green Bay Packers. Year 3 in the Matt LaFleur system. Aaron Rodgers said it, I believe it was today, that they're adding new wrinkles, they're adding new looks, and I know, you know, some people out there may laugh at this, but Josiah DeGuara is going to be a difference maker this year. I'm not calling it. He's not going to be George Kittle or even Robert Tonyan or Mark Andrews or any of these top tight end, or Kyle Juszczyk down in San Francisco, H-back type guys. But I really truly believe that there are multiple packages that involve Josiah DeGuara and his skill set that we have not seen, that LaFleur just had to crumple up and throw it out the window because obviously the torn ACL last year. And he made a big impact in the first game and a half that he played last year. We saw him block 2 guys on one play that sprung Aaron Jones loose for a 20-yard gain. So we're going to see different looks when it comes to DeGuara. We're going to see a lot more A.J. Dillon, which I'm a huge fan of. Congratulations to A.J., a big fan of the show. He is now engaged. So congratulations to him. So we're going to see, you know, a lot of different looks. And then there was an article a couple days ago that came out that Matt LaFleur is going to utilize that slot position. It's going to be a rotation. You're not going to see Randall Cobb out there every, 70% of the plays. You're not going to see Amari Rodgers. You're not going to see Lazard or MVS out of that slot, however they may line up.
I don't want to see MVS in the slot at all.
I wouldn't mind. I really wouldn't. Because if you put MVS in the slot, who's defending the slot? It's either going to be a linebacker or a safety.
Well, it's true.
So I'm perfectly fine. Now, they're probably not going to put him in the slot. Maybe that's some of the looks that they're talking about. I don't know. But if MVS lines in the slot and takes off on a go route, nobody's going to stop him. Yeah.
It's true.
As great as Marshawn Lattimore, Malcolm Jenkins, whoever's in that position to guard him, they're not 4.2, 4.3 speed. So maybe that's something that we're going to see different this year. Aaron Rodgers mentioned they're trying to create an offense to where people are not, it's not a stale offense, which we saw with Mike McCarthy and his tenure in Green Bay. Guys just got sick of it, and it just became way too predictable. Yeah. If you watch Badger football, you can predict almost every play that the Badgers run. So I think you're going to see new folds, especially with the additions of Randall Cobb is a huge piece. He's not going to be, 100 catches, 1,000 yards, but he adds a different element to that offense that we haven't seen. And look, I know we have Randall Cobb, but we drafted Amari Rodgers before we had Randall Cobb, and we haven't had a player like Amari Rodgers until Randall Cobb. Now I know he's back, but you know what I mean. So there's really LaFleur he's probably just, drooling at the mouth, ready for week one, ready for real football to kick off, because there really is no weakness on this team. Robert Tonyan is going to shape out. He led tight ends in touchdowns last year. He's an underrated run blocker. You're going to see a more rounded Robert Tonyan, I think, this year. Obviously, you know what you're getting out of Mercedes Lewis.
Big dog.
And then I think, Aaron Rodgers just he's going to be out to prove people again. So you're going to have that nasty chip on his shoulder where he's out to just make sure he knows everybody's watching him, and he proves them all around. So it's going to be interesting.
I mean, having too many weapons is not a bad problem, but I mean, in terms of what they have at their disposal, we haven't seen an offense like this since 2011, 2012, when they donned the cover of Sports Illustrated, and it was one of the greatest arsenals Green Bay has ever had in the history of the franchise. I'm really wanting to see that Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Robert Tonyan, Josiah DeGuara set. I want that big dog set, and I want to see what they can do with it, because you have no idea what's going to happen with that offense, and you could line up anybody at wide receiver at that point. I hope that the repetition that they're getting in practice is going the way they want it to go, because the only downfall of having too many weapons and having too many things that you can do is just not knowing if it's going to be effective, not knowing what direction you could go in. I don't see this being a close game. I see it being like maybe a 30-17 kind of game, 30-16 kind of game. It is a 4-point spread. Technically, both teams are now the road teams, even though the Saints are the home team. Both teams are the road team. But let's get some predictions going. In terms of the score, we'll start there. What do you see as the score of this game?
Put me on the spot here. When I saw that the weather initially was going to be like 98 degrees at the beginning of, I think it was last week, where they finally announced that it was in Jacksonville, I was like, well, great. Here we go again. This is going to be a game where they just aren't, hydrated enough. And Matt LaFleur had a funny comment today about he
color
wants
your
to
pee.
Make sure it's as clear as it can be. And it's going to be more of a home game for Green Bay than it is New Orleans. And I know New Orleans hired the research department to find a location that was going to be the most expensive for Packer fans. Packer fans do not care. They will find a way to get there no matter what. So you're looking at more than likely. Look, even if it's not more Packer fans, it's still not a home game for New Orleans. And
the Saints don't travel. They don't travel.
No. And, obviously everything that's going on down in New Orleans, there's and more important things than to travel to a football game.
Yep.
So, we're going to probably see more Packer fans. The thing about it is with no preseason, there was a preseason, but the Packers don't play their starters, really their second unit either a whole lot. The rust, what are we going to see? Yeah, Amari Rodgers is new in the offense. Randall Cobb is new in the offense. A.J. Dillon, not that he's new in the offense, but he has a bigger role than he did last year. Or is it going to take a game to get going? Is it going to take a quarter, 2 quarters? Are you going to find yourself down a couple scores, maybe a score? I don't know. If I had to guess, and you're putting me on the spot, I think Green Bay comes out firing on all cylinders. I think they showed last year they don't need a preseason. I'm okay with them sitting all preseason. It really, other than going there and wanting to see certain guys play, that's about the only aspect of it that I wish I could, had the experience of, but I'm okay with it. Aaron Rodgers won an MVP with literally no offseason last year. They were doing Zoom meetings, so I'm perfectly fine with not having the offseason. I think Green Bay comes out. I think the defense struggles more than the offense struggles. And I think it ends up 34-21.
Ooh, 34-21.
Green Bay.
Yeah. Okay. A little bit higher scoring than I had. In terms of statistically speaking, I think, golly, star of the game is going to be Aaron Jones. I think they're going to rely on Aaron Jones. I don't think they're going to open up Rodgers, like a week 10 matchup or a week 12 matchup. I think you're probably going to see 25 passes out of Rodgers, maybe 26, 27 at the most. I think Aaron Jones eats. I would like to see about 170 yards of offense out of him, 120 on the ground, maybe another 40 or 50 in the air. A couple touchdowns. That's my star player. If you have him on fantasy, start him. You got a great running back matchup, Aaron Jones versus Alvin Kamara.
Yep.
24. You really think they're going to give up 24 points?
21. I do, because I think what's going to
21?
happen. Yeah, 34-21.
Oh, 34-21. Okay. All
and
right.
what I think is going to happen is New Orleans is going to find themselves down in the second half by multiple scores.
Right.
And then you're going to see kind of Green Bay, I don't want to say prevent defense, but playing a lot more zone, trying to keep everybody in front, making them work for, like we saw with Patton, traveling down the field instead of making it all in one play. And I think they're probably going to catch a few scores here and there. But there's just so many unknowns because it's week one. Green Bay didn't play anybody. New Orleans doesn't have anybody on offense really outside of Kamara as far as the weapons go, like they did last year. Jared Cook, Michael Thomas, and Emmanuel Sanders, that's huge. To lose
huge.
that's monstrous. Yeah, I mean, they just don't have anybody. I mean, Adam Trutman is their starting tight end. I've never even heard of him. No offense. I've never heard of him. Like,
well, they didn't have a tight end that went on the IR, didn't they? Nick Vannett, but I don't know how effective he would have been.
Traquan Smith, it was great at Ohio State. I don't know if he's a number one. He's a maybe one or two route. His route tree isn't very crazy. I mean, I just don't know. That's why I said if you shut down, I don't know about shut down. You probably can't shut down Kamara, but if you contain him, we saw what happened last year, and they had Drew Brees last year. They had Michael Thomas. I don't think Michael Thomas played that game. So Devontae Adams missed that game as well. That was the game that Lazard went out too. With that core injury. But we saw last year, like Kamara he literally put the team on his back. And we saw it also when Green Bay when Minnesota came to Green Bay last year. Dalvin Cook scored 5 touchdowns and literally carried them to victory. So it's possible. And that's the only thing that scares me about this New Orleans team. I also think that their defense is underrated. I think they're pretty good. But I think Green Bay's offense is just going to be, there's too many people. There's way too many weapons.
The thing with Kamara last year, he didn't necessarily kill Green Bay on the ground. He killed them with the passing game. I mean, he had 140 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns receiving. I think he only had like 50 some odd yards on the ground. I just, we've talked about the lack of weapons. I almost wonder if Jameis is going to target Kamara too many times and it's going to become predictable.
Yeah.
But for once, I want to see a Green Bay defense that doesn't let their foot off of the brake and coasts to a victory. I want to see a Green Bay defense that puts their foot on the throat of the opposing team and shuts them down.
It'd be great.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen like a 35-7 game or a 28-3 game, and then it's all of a sudden it's 35-24, 35-21, and I just want to see a dominant Packers defense, and this is the perfect opportunity for them to get off on a strong foot, get some momentum going. They do, I don't want to call them cupcake schedules, but they do have some easy teams. And if you get off to a strong start in the first 3-4 weeks, going into those tougher matchups later on in the season, that confidence goes a long ways. So this would be the game that if they do put their foot on the opposing team's neck, this is the one to do it. If you're up 28-7 in the fourth quarter, don't go into prevent. Don't give up the yards. Keep playing.
Well, and that's the thing too, is you're taking a team that is completely different outside of the Superdome. No matter who's at quarterback, they're just way different, like night and day different. They are so much better in the Superdome, especially under Sean Payton. So now you're taking them off carpet, putting them on real. Let's call it what it is. Putting them on real grass, it slows the offense down, it slows the defense down, and now you're evening the playing field as far as the noise control goes, because it's like I said, it's probably going to be more, 60-40 Packers, maybe 55-45, whatever. And you're taking that one advantage that I think New Orleans probably has over Green Bay is obviously the home field, and now it's neutral, and now you're really there's just no excuse.
Yeah.
If I'm the Green Bay Packers, that you lose this game.
No, I agree. Anything else? I mean, we can only talk about the matchup for so long.
The other thing too with this, we all went through it all offseason with Aaron Rodgers and now Devontae Adams. This is important for Green Bay to get on a good start. It's important.
Yeah.
I don't want to say imperative, but I think it's important because once you start losing games, look, if you're 1-2 after the first 2 weeks, to me that's a letdown because you should beat New Orleans and you should mop the floor with Detroit. So it's imperative.
I think that San Francisco game is just as winnable, to be honest with you.
San Francisco worries me only because why does it feel like we're always at San Francisco?
Every game, I swear, every time they play in San Francisco. I feel like
we're always at San Francisco. I 3 years in a row now that we're at San Francisco. But that one I could see. I wouldn't be surprised at the win, but I could also see, a slip up. I think San Francisco is going to be a surprise, not surprising, but they're going to be a damn good team this year. They're returning. They had 19 guys on the IR last year.
Yeah,
so,
they're a completely different team. I mean, almost top to bottom, a completely different team.
Yeah, they'll get better. Kittle will kill us, but that's a whole nother conversation for a couple weeks. But what I was trying to get to is it's important for this team to get on a right foot because of all the drama that what nobody can call it that, but that's what it was. That's Aaron Rodgers says it's not, and that's fine. It was. It was between everybody. You cannot tell me it wasn't. If Aaron Rodgers goes out there and he's not as crisp, his timing's off, his throws aren't on time, whatever, on target, whatever you want to call it. I just don't want the locker room to become an issue early in the season because that's why I say it's important to get off on a good foot, to get a little bit of rhythm, obviously going into the tougher part of the schedule, but also to make sure that locker room, I want to see the test of that locker room, the testament. I want to see how strong it is truly if they do struggle. And that's why I think it's important to get off on a good foot so we don't see that.
Well, a bigger problem than that too. I think the locker room is going to be okay, at least for the first game, but a more concerning issue that would arise if Aaron Rodgers does have a mediocre performance is the media reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
After his offseason of drama, Aaron Rodgers comes out and throws a lame duck.
Yeah,
I could see the Skip Baylesses and the Colin Cowherds talking about it right now. And that distraction will be bigger than Aaron Rodgers, offseason drama in the locker room. I think a media distraction would be a bigger, needle into the tire than anything else would be. And, thanks, Jacob, for showing up when we got about 2 minutes left in the episode. We haven't been recording for an hour or anything. But thank you, though. I appreciate your compliment. But no, I think a media reaction to a poor Aaron Rodgers performance would be worse. It would be more detrimental than his presence in the locker room would be. I'm kind of anticipating. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you do remember this. Everyone remembers this. But that first game against New Orleans, the year after they won the Super Bowl, when they had all of that drama with the CBA and the Players Union, and they had the lockout. It was kind of a similar situation to last year. They didn't have any preseason or mini camps. They had preseason, but no mini camps, stuff like that. They came out gunslinging.
Mm-hmm.
That first game against New Orleans. They went up 21, I believe it was 21-7 in the first, 8 minutes of the game?
Yeah.
I kind of expect to see that kind of a start just because of all the things that you talked about. Let's get off to a hot start. Let's wipe the slate clean. Let's get all of that negative vibes, negative energy out of the locker room. Let's get these guys confident. Let's get the energy going, even though it's a partial home away game. I kind of see the same start in this game as I do in 2011, to be honest with you.
I hope you're right. And what's funny about that is we saw that was the quote unquote coming out party for Randall Cobb, returning that kickoff, or John Kuhn almost basically picked him up where he almost was tackled.
Yeah.
Maybe we see that with Amari Rodgers. Maybe we see something. That's the other thing that we didn't even talk about that I really did want to bring up. Special teams has got to be better. I think that's imperative to becoming, getting over the top as far as getting to the Super Bowl. You got to have good special teams. And I want to, make sure that's improved and it's going to be important, but it's,
did you see who the returners are?
Yes.
That is pretty dynamic, if you ask me. Amari Rodgers,
I agree.
Tyler Hill at kickoff. Yeah,
I agree, and that's what I mean. We saw like the special team struggle in the preseason. Everybody loses their mind over preseason. It's literally like they're it's not a team thing. They're looking at individual guys.
Yeah.
So I hope that's improved. I look forward to that being, different than it was last year or years past as well. But I do think that I think Green Bay wins. I think it's important to get off on a good start. I think Matt LaFleur wants nothing but a good start, because then you lose one or two of your first couple of games, and then the questions, like you said, the media starts asking, okay, well, had Aaron Rodgers been here earlier, would things be different? And then it starts creeping in, and they can say all they want about it. Doesn't get in the locker room. Guys listen, guys hear, guys read, guys are on social media. They see it. You cannot tell me it doesn't cross their mind. As much as they may love Aaron Rodgers,
I'm sure it does. But I think Matt LaFleur is capable of keeping that locker room intact. As far as Rodgers personally, I think it's the added drama outside of the fact. I think the media will have a bigger impact on that locker room than Aaron Rodgers will personally. But one other thing that I'm actually very concerned with, well, not concerned with, I would be interested to see, what is his demeanor going to be if they get off to a slow start, or if he gets off to a slow start? What is his demeanor going to be? Is he going to be a leader? Is he going to be like, all right, guys, let's, the RELAX Rodgers. We're going to run the table. We're going to win this thing. Or is he going to be slouch shoulders, quiet, not very talkative to the media, kind of after the NFC Championship game Rodgers, where he's blaming everyone else? Passive aggressive. If they do get off to a slow start, 2-2, 3-1, or not 3-1, 1-3, something along those lines, and his numbers aren't matching his pace from last year, it's going to be all on him to keep that locker room together. That is when Aaron Rodgers comes into play in that locker room. His demeanor is going to come into play. He needs to be in charge of that locker room this year more than probably any other year he's ever had in his career. It's this year.
Yep.
If he wants to be considered a leader, now's the time to show it. Now's the time to put all of the critics to rest. We've seen the articles, we've seen the interviews, we've listened to Greg Jennings and Jermichael Finley. I can't believe I forgot his name. Jermichael Finley. Now's the time to prove to everybody, after all the drama that you were a part of in causing, lead this locker room to a Super Bowl. And if you get up to a slow start, show us you're here to stay, show us you're here to win. That's what I would probably be most concerned in seeing.
And we haven't really seen Aaron Rodgers have to be a vocal leader. Now he leads by example. You hear guys talk about there's not a harder working guy in the locker room, and that's all great. When they won the Super Bowl, you had Charles Woodson at the helm, kind of taking over that locker room. They had strong veteran leadership that year that they won the Super Bowl. Now it's translating to this year. Aaron Rodgers is in the shoes Charles Woodson was in when they won the Super Bowl. You're a few years away, more than likely, no matter how old Tom Brady keeps playing. You're probably a handful of years away from retiring. That's where Charles Woodson was as well. And what are you going to do to bring this team together? Are we going to see you looking at the sideline and saying, stupid effing play like you did with Mike McCarthy? I don't want to see that, because that's not what leaders do. It's just not. I don't want to see you looking up at the GM box or something and doing something passive aggressive, or coming
throwing
to the post
tablet down, or
I don't want to get into the Brady Rodgers thing, but you just don't see Brady do those things. He's different, and I'm not saying that he's better than Aaron Rodgers, but he's obviously been more successful as far as winning championships. So that's a good point that you brought up. What is he going to be when things aren't going great? Because there's going to be moments throughout the season, as we know, Rhino, whether you win the Super Bowl or not, there's going to be moments throughout a year where it's a struggle.
Well, especially with that gauntlet of a schedule they have halfway through the season, going to Kansas City, playing the Rams, playing the Seahawks. They are going to lose some games this year. They may lose 4 or 5 games. It's going to rest on his shoulders whether or not this team steps right back up and goes out and competes at a high level the very next week.
And especially if Zadarius Smith is injured. David Bakhtiari's out until at least we're looking at probably week 9 with David Bakhtiari, because he can't start practicing until Monday of week 7. So you think they're probably a week, maybe 2 weeks into practicing. So you're looking at David Bakhtiari, which is fine, because that's when they're going to probably need him the most with the Rams and Seattle and the tougher part of the schedule. So I'm okay with that. But as far as leadership goes, he's not going to be around. It's going to solely rely on Aaron Rodgers, Zadarius Smith, Davante Adams, and that's the other thing. There's so much around this team, with Davante Adams with the contract, Aaron Rodgers with the opt-out after this year. There's just so much outside noise that if there starts to be cracks in the foundation, are those going to leak in? And that's what's going to be important.
that's another dude that I need to see a lot of positivity out of, and I need to see a lot of leadership out of is Davante Adams, because he was the one that said in the preseason before they even really were talking about a deal.
Yep.
Are you going to play on your final year of a contract? Well, of course I'm going to play. I remember what it was like to be broke. Okay, prove it. If you're going to play, show up every day and play. Don't give me that shit if you're going to come out and give 50%, or if you lose a game, your shoulders are down. You're not vocal. I need to see leadership out of Davante too, even if it is his last year in Green Bay. Go get that ring. Go show the guys in that locker room you're there to win, not there to get paid. Because so far, during this offseason, especially with his comments yesterday, it really feels like he just wants to get paid, and that's it.
Over a fake contract. Like, DeAndre, like, it's just, it is what it is. It's just another mess that Green Bay is going to face in the offseason off of.
Hopefully it's in the offseason and not this season.
Well, that's the important part about starting off on a good note, like we talked about. Because I think if you start off on a good note, you drop a few games here or there in the middle of the season, it's okay. You'll have moment. It's an extra game this year. I don't think the division's going to be all too, good, I guess is the right word, depending on what happens with Chicago. I think Minnesota will be decent.
Not if you check Vikings Twitter. They're talking 14-3.
They're good, but I don't think they're going to be 14-3.
They're the Vikings, man. I don't care how good they are. They're the Vikings.
Any team that has a top 3 running back, and Justin Jefferson is a star.
He is. And Adam Thielen.
Yeah, Irv Smith Jr. being out for the year hurts them a little bit, but I think their defense is going to be a little bit better. But you still should win your division, even if you drop 4 to 5, maybe even 6 games. You probably win your division. Yeah,
I agree. That is going to do it for the show, folks. We're going to wrap up our Week 1 preview of the matchup with the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints. Make sure you check us out on Twitter. You can find Brandon on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. I, of course, am on Twitter at Sports Talk Rhino. The show at Titletown Lounge. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the whole 9. We will tweet the show out here soon. And make sure you check in next Wednesday. We will break down the matchup we just discussed, and we will look forward to that Week 2 matchup against the Detroit Lions. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Go Pack.
There's Bledsoe. Down he goes. And there's Reggie White. And that's that hump.
Low to the shotgun. 3 receivers left, 2 to the right. Snap to Rodgers. Scrambles to his left, under pressure, rolling right, escapes. Right side looking. Rainbows high and deep, put into the end zone, and it is caught. Ball caught for a touchdown. A leaping touchdown catch is made, and the Packers have won.
He is slick in the pocket, and then once he looked across the field, oh my gosh, that's from the 35. That's 60. That's close to 70 yards, but it's how high it went is what's so impressive.
Rodgers to Rodgers. 2 guys from Cal connect.
You talk about a season-saving game.